to me is it's kind of like someone going on a crazy trip, right? And just being like, whoa, I just saw the void, enter the void kind of stuff. It's kind of ironic that the most existential you'll feel, the more existential you feel, the more surreal everything feels. And if surreal, to me, the experience of surrealism, if that's not nothingness or void, I don't know what is, but it's somehow the more that we kind of align ourselves with existence in the most pure fashion, the way language can't, right? Like language, I'm a firm believer now, cannot map the territory, but you can become the territory. That's what consciousness does. I think that's what's special about us as human beings is we can tap into becoming or being the territory, and that shows you that nothingness and existence or void and existence coexist or are the same thing, or there's no, it's not, it doesn't even make sense to say everything that I'm saying right now, as all of that becomes irrelevant. The point is, can we find some kind of the closest description to that? And that's what paradoxism is to me.
It also reminds me of like when in Eastern religions they say oneness. It's kind of, it's everything and it's infinite, but in some sense it's also nothing, but not in a absolute sense, as in it's still everything, even though it's a nothing.
It kind of reminds me of the Tao, nothingness in the sense of no particular thingness, right? Not so much as the absence of things, but more as that oneness, the presence of the one. And what James said about after having a personal mystical experience of the one, that a lot of these distinctions cease to be significant and you kind of throw them away. That reminds me of what Wittgenstein says in the Tractatus about when you have finally worked your way through the system and understood me, you'll throw it all away like a ladder. You've climbed up. Then he concludes with that final statement, whereof one cannot speak, thereof one ought to remain silent.
Yeah, well, that's the Tao all the way. I think one of the first stanzas is the way that is named the way is not the way. But like, to me, when we're using language, we're making distinctions, we're creating contrast. So to me, if we're going to have a philosophical debate about the nature of reality, it makes no sense to throw away the other component that would help you make that contrast so that you can go and hook into the understanding of that experience that we're trying to describe that is indescribable. And that's why I hold on to this idea that void is an ontological and epistemological necessity if truth is what you're after, not after to describe, but after to experience.
Some of this reminds me of a quote. It's actually quite an ancient quote from an unknown geometer. I'm curious to see how it lands with you. The quote is, existence is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose boundary is nowhere.
Wow, I like that.